Hello friends! Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Nuclear Revenge. This episode has 3 stories, the first one being short and sweet, while the other 2 are pretty long, so buckle up. You'll hear about how a mother gets revenge on her grandfather, why you should never lay your hands on coworkers, and how one person stood up for multiple people at school and won. I hope you stay for all the stories today and subscribe for future videos. Be careful who you're being mean to. They might hold the key to saving your life. This story's titled, Be an Abusive Jerk? Die for It. My mom's grandfather was well known for being extremely abusive to his wife, children, and grandchildren. Now, my mom is a take-no-shit kind of person. She's never had any trouble standing up for herself, even to her family. When my mom was a teen, old granddad got really sick, and if he had any hope of surviving, he needed a blood donation from a relative that was an exact match to him. Everyone got tested. The perfect life-saving match? My mother. She refused to donate, and no one could do a thing about it. Granddad died soon after. I asked my mom if she regretted her choice. She said, not one fucking bit. Laying hands on coworkers is a huge no-no, especially those who can end your career. This story's titled, He Grabbed Me. I Took Everything. To start off, I want to clarify that I went way overboard, and at the time this story took place, I was at a bad spot in my life, but I do not regret what I did in any way. So about 4 years ago, I was working as a certified nurse's aide. I later lost my job for unrelated reasons, and I never went back to the field for other reasons. While I was there, I was one of the 4 who would train new people. This is only relevant as the person this involves, who will be called John, was one of the guys that I trained at our facility. John, for the most part, was easy to get along with, but he had a temper and everyone was aware of it. What I didn't know at the time was that he was also fighting for custody of his child. One day, about a year into him working there, he had messed up some charting. No big deal, I fixed it and corrected him on his mistake. He was at first confused, but I just explained that he might have gotten the charting numbers mixed up, and it was no problem. Now, for reference, we did our charting paper style at the desk located between the 2 halls, and occasionally, our residents, or patients, would be sitting in front of it while chatting with us. As most of them were dementia care, they never really remembered what would be said, but regardless, we never talked about anyone by name, only room number or chart number. About an hour after I finished cleaning up a resident's shower, he came into the shower room and asked to talk to me. Sure, that's fine, as it was a private area. He made mention that he didn't appreciate me correcting him in front of people. It made sense, so I apologized, and I told him it wouldn't happen again. I don't know where I went wrong, but he started getting loud about how it was his hall, and no one had the right to talk to him like that. Now I'm pissed. I told him that, 1, we don't have hall leads at our facility, nor does any nursing home I've ever seen, excluding maybe our nurses who are in charge. And 2, I've been here for years longer than him, and apparently, nothing I said while training him stuck. This didn't sit well with him. He proceeded to pin me to the wall of the shower room with his arm across my throat and hand holding my shirt. As he held me there, he told me if I ever talked to him like that again, he was reporting me to the state for HIPAA violations. Now, HIPAA is not something I take lightly. One slip-up could cost you everything in this field with a HIPAA violation. I was red with anger, so I started thinking and immediately had an idea. If there was one thing I knew that was worse for your license than a HIPAA violation, was elder abuse. So I started my scheme. We had a man on our hall that had brain damage from football, and as such, was highly combative and took 2 people normally to handle him. I was able to handle him on my own generally, as I talked to him about football while taking care of him. I played defensive line in high school. That day, he had developed a bruise on his chest, and I had no idea where it came from, but I had where I was gonna say that it came from planned out. I immediately called in John to help me transfer this resident to bed. As we finished and went into the hall, I said something loud enough for several CNAs and nurses to hear. I stated, I don't care why you did it, you never hit a patient. He was taken aback by this whole statement. It clicked after about 5 seconds what I just did to him. The nurses had me write a statement in which I mentioned that I had asked if he knew where that new bruise came from, and John told me that while he was walking the resident to the bathroom, the man kept squeezing his arm and he got fed up, so he hit him in the chest. And yes, the guy would squeeze arms and wrists while being walked. The next day, I came in and found out that John had lost his job, and police and Adult Protective Services were pressing charges on him. I don't know if he was found guilty or not. I did find out a few weeks later, however, that he not only lost his license, he also lost complete custody of his child to his ex-wife and got no visitation. On top of that, he had to sell everything he owned in order to pay for his lawyer. Needless to say, I could have been a little more fair with him, but I loved watching his life burn down around him. Let it be learned, don't grab people by the throat and threaten people who may ruin your life with the drop of a hat. Edit. After reading a lot of the comments, I did want to make one thing clear. Where I don't regret what I did was wrong. I don't condone it, nor would I ever do it again. I posted this because it was a neat story and I felt like sharing. But I did want to clarify this for anyone who thinks that I'm proud of it, because I'm not. If there's one thing in life that you should be, it's to be kind. This story's titled, Asshole Gets Publicly Humiliated Before the Entire Student Body and His Parents and Grandmother. Caution! Long story ahead. This story happened when I was in high school. I went to a smallish high school, around 950 students, ranging from grade 9 to grade 12. With so many students in one place, I had quite a few good friends that I talked to, but only a handful that I hung out with and talked to on a daily basis. Now, there was a certain person in our social group. Let's call him Bailey. Bailey was a social outcast by many people's standards, not by bullying or hazing or mistreatment from the other students. It's just that no one really liked him because he was an asshole all the time. He was always playing the victim when he was rejected by girls. He threatened to ruin the lives of said girls who did reject him. He harassed girls online and touched them in uncomfortable places, in person. Nothing perverted though, just stomach and lower back and neck. He begged for money off of people. He was sexist and a racist person to all races and ethnicities. He put himself into other people's conversations and generally wasn't a very nice person to hang around. I have a really good friend. Let's call her A. A has been my best friend since I can remember, and she's a wonderful, sweet, and generous person to everyone. One day, before we got out for winter break, A came up to me in the hallway before the end of school, bawling her eyes out. I asked her to tell me what was wrong, and she said that Bailey had asked her out before she went to class over text. But when she declined after explaining that she already had a boyfriend, all hell broke loose. He called her a slut. He said she should off herself because of how fat she was. He said no one loved her because she was a mixture of the two worst races, and that no one would want her because she's a C-word. A had some insecurities about herself, but Bailey hit every single one of them point blank. I was fucking seething with rage while reading her text, and I was completely appalled and disgusted by his behavior. I told her to dry her eyes and send me the screenshots of the conversation he had with her. When she asked me what I was gonna do with them, I simply told her that I had enough of him harassing girls, and I was gonna do something about it. Now, I was not gonna confront him directly, not with how angry I was at the moment. Instead, I decided to rally the troops and get ready for the bloodbath. I was gonna massacre what was left of his entire school career, his entire life. Now, Bailey had done this to girls before, and luckily, I had those girls' numbers saved in my phone because they're my friends. So I made a group chat and asked everyone to send any type of nude, racist, or sexist, or failed attempt to be asked out screenshot over any type of social media that Bailey had sent to them. Over the next 15 minutes, my phone was blaring with text notifications. There were screenshots of Snapchat stories, Facebook comments, text messages. All in all, I had around 60 photos of sexist, racist, failed dick pics, or asshole comments or rants that he made to 15 females, including myself. Over winter break, I composed all of those screenshots into a nice little PowerPoint and saved it in my flash drive on my laptop. I spoke with our principal, and I asked him if I could show him something relevant to the safety of students. He told me that he had no problem with it, and a time was set. When it finally comes down for my meeting with the principal, I have a small parade of girls behind me who wanted to come testify, anxiously holding onto each other's hands. We were invited to the principal's private conference room, where I handed him the flash drive to connect to the projector. The principal called in some teachers to be witnesses, and called Bailey down to the conference room to take a seat and try to defend himself if the allegations weren't true. The principal clicks the remote to play my presentation, and it slowly begins to load up. The first slide comes up and the room goes deathly silent, besides a few gasps of shock. As the slide continues on, I notice that Bailey is squirming in his seat, uncomfortable, and the people in the room are getting more agitated and angry. Halfway through the slides, Bailey jumps to his feet and throws his arms in front of the projector. He tried to explain that he was joking with the comments about race, and that these girls were framing him for something he didn't do. He pointed to me and said that I was the ringleader of this operation, and that I should be the one being thrown on the spot, not him. The entire room was tense, and the principal turned on the lights with his hands on his hips and a giant sigh. The principal turns to me and tells me thank you for bringing this to his attention, and he asked if he could take the flash drive and use it for the investigations and alleged rumors that were going on about Bailey. A few days later, the entire school was summoned to the gym for an announcement. Bailey was there with his parents on either side of him and his grandmother. The slideshow was playing on repeat on a projector in the background for everyone to see. The principal said a few words about how harassment in any shape, form, or fashion would not be tolerated, and neither would sexism or any form of racist behavior or comments. The principal made Bailey apologize publicly to the school about his behavior, and how he would never do it again. His parents were embarrassed, but they also apologized to the school and the young ladies that he had harassed. His grandmother did not let him off so easy. She slapped his knee with her cane, hard, and started yelling at him for being so disgusting and such a disappointment to her. Bailey started to cry on stage as his mother and father tried to calm down his grandmother. Once everything calmed down, they were escorted off the property. He was suspended for the rest of the year for verbal harassment and racist comments. Later on, in the same year, I found out that he had tried to rob a grocery store and was now facing trial for battery, assault with a deadly weapon, and armed robbery. My friends and I all graduated happily, and I never saw Bailey again. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed these stories today. If you want to submit your own stories, my Discord server is in the link below. Also, if you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss future stories. See you guys in the next one.